Hello, my beautiful planty people, and how are you doing today? I hope you're great. I am doing well. Had a bit of a rough day yesterday. I didn't upload a video today. I know. But you know what? I don't feel guilty about it. I did previously. Like if I didn't get a video out when I said I was gonna, especially through Vlogmas because it's like an everyday thing, I felt really like a massive like sense of guilt. But I have kind of come to the realization that for my own mental sanity, I have to take it easy on myself. You know what I mean? Vlogmas is a big undertaking. I mean, uploading 3 videos a week already is a big undertaking. It takes a lot of time. And with a family and everything, it's not always like an easy thing to work in. But I think with Vlogmas especially, because it was something that I committed to doing, is uploading every day, with the exception of Mondays, which was kind of supposed to be my day off. There was a lot of pressure on myself to do that, and I really did a lot of soul searching yesterday, and I was like, you know what, you guys are so incredibly supportive. You're not gonna like cancel me. You know what I mean? Like if I don't post on one day. So I just had my moment yesterday. I feel much better today. I got some vlogging done this morning, which I think you're really going to enjoy. It's a little bit different than usual, and I really hope you enjoy it. So make sure you watch tomorrow for that special vlog. But today, let's just get to what we're here for. Today, you are here because this is my entire Monstera collection video. So, I will preface this by saying that I don't have a ton of Monstera. A lot of Monstera species are very similar. A lot of them are not really well known, but I do have a few, maybe, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-ish. But having a little bit smaller of a collection in this video is going to be able to make it so that I can maybe talk a little bit more about each one. I know there's a specific few that you guys are wanting to know a little bit more about, or how I care for them, etc. So it's a long intro. On to the Monstera. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do in this video is just kind of start out small and work my way up to large. I do have two actually that I can't really move. So I will save those for the last just because they're like harder to get to. So I'll just get all the sit down stuff I brought over here done first. So smallest to largest, make sure you stick around because the end stuff is the fun stuff. Okay, so I will, before I get started with all this, I always forget to do this. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing. Hit that subscribe button. Also, if you like this video, please hit that like button. We have this insane, ridiculous goal to get to 10K by February, and I would be incredibly ecstatic and feel so incredibly blessed, not that I don't already, if we could manage to hit that. So if you're watching my videos on a regular basis and haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. I would appreciate that so much. Okay, yes, I will shut up. I will move along. You'd be surprised at how often I get comments on like, just get to the point. This is how I am. If you watch me on a regular basis, you will take me for me, appreciate me for me, and just know that that's how I do. Okay, but know that I'm aware that I do this. Okay, I just don't care anymore. You guys like me for me, and that's what I appreciate and love. Okay, so the first one that we are going to start with here is my Monstera Stanleyana. So I got this plant maybe 6 or 8 months ago ish. I had a really hard time with it at first. It didn't want to grow, it didn't want to do anything, and then it put up this ginormous runner that just ran on forever. It was like Forrest Gumping across my house. But finally, we lowered the light just a smidgen, and now we've got all kinds of leaves. Now there's soil on my floor. Shocker. Welcome to my life. Anyway, so this plant is doing really well now. It turns out that it didn't necessarily care for the higher light conditions that I was giving it, and that's pretty typical in my experience with a lot of Monstera. They tend to be like more of an understory plant, and they don't require a crazy high amount of light. So I would say like medium to bright indirect light would be great for the majority of Monsteras. When you start to dive into like more of a like variegated Monstera and that kind of thing, that's when the light does get a little bit more important, because you have to find that balance between not allowing the white on the plant to burn, but you want to give it enough light so that it's able to photosynthesize with the smaller amount of green that it does have, if that makes sense. So this Stanleyana isn't highly variegated or anything like that. It does have more of a speckling type variegation, but I will say that it is doing so much better now that I have figured out its lighting requirements. The other thing that I will tell you about this plant, so there was a spot right here where I cut off the ginormous forest gump runner and I propagated it. So I cut it into nodes, I put it in spag moss, I have another piece that is in water, and they have been that way, not dying, for at least 5 months. This plant is a nightmare to propagate. If you guys have propagated this plant, please let me know. I don't know if it's like my plant in particular just doesn't want to procreate or what the deal is. However, it's driving me nuts. So if you have found a way that you propagate Stanleyana that is working, hit me up down in the comments. Let me know. I would love to have more of this plant. It won't root. It won't root. It won't grow leaves. It just lives as a node, and it drives me crazy. Anyway, I will move along, but I'm really glad this plant is doing better. It's a beautiful plant, and now that it's growing, I can't wait to see it with, you know, I probably should get it a pole. That would probably be a good idea, because I think they do well on poles. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next plant. Okay, my next Monstera that I would like to share with you is this baby. So this is my Monstera Siltana. So this is actually 3 different plants that I got from 3 different folks. Oh, look at that. We got some roots. So when I got these 3 different plants, or these 3 different cuttings, I put them all in the same pot on a pole, and as you can see, it's growing quite well. It's off the top of the pole, and we are now back to getting these teeny tiny leaves. So this plant has been on the struggle bus. So this poor guy, shortly after I got it, had spider mites. So we battled that for a little while. And then this plant got thrips. And we battled that for a long time. But now it is healthy. It has been growing in my IKEA greenhouse cabinet. It seems to really like it in there, but I definitely do. See, here's the struggle. Let me know if you guys deal with this. So you get this plant and you want to put it on a pole, because we know that plants get these bigger, more beautiful leaves when they're able to climb as they would in their natural habitat, right? Am I right? But here's where the problem happens. With a plant like this, it tends to grow quicker, as do pothos, trailing philodendrons, etc. At what point do we just stop increasing the pole size? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, am I just supposed to wait until it touches the ceiling, the pole, before I go,
yeah, I guess it's a trailing plant now.
Do you know what I mean? Like, how big? So I'm kind of considering just letting it trail. So maybe I won't get the big, huge, beautiful Monstera leaves. Maybe they'll never split. But like, how big does the pole need to be? I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying though? So I'm struggling with that with this plant and with one of my pothos that I have on a pole as well. It grows so quickly, it's off the top of the pole, and I mean we can only make so many poles and put so many extensions on poles. Anyway, so the Monstera Siltana doesn't like super crazy bright light. It prefers kind of like a medium to bright indirect kind of situation when it comes to like my grow lights. And so I have it on the second shelf on the bottom of the cabinet. Again, that's only a temporary situation. And I might try to incorporate this guy into my scape when I trick out my greenhouse cabinet. So we'll see what happens there, but it's been a really great plant. Once it got going, once we got rid of all the pest issues, it's been wonderful. The leaves are absolutely adorable. They have a very cute little, you know, the typical Monstera reptilian kind of look on the leaves, and it's a really pretty little plant. I'm just struggling with what to do with it now. So that is the Monstera Siltana. Let's go ahead and move on to plant number 3. Okay, this next plant is causing me some grief. Tis. So this very confusing little plant is, okay, I don't know. So when I purchased this plant originally, it was substantially smaller. It didn't have these big, beautiful leaves on it. They were quite small, and it was labeled a Monstera Siam. Now, up until that point, I had always heard the Imidrium medium referred to, or its like other common name referred to as a Monstera Siam. So I picked it up originally. Well, I had my friend Paula pick it up because I was like, oh my god, that must be what it is. Can you grab it for me? So she did. And the more I got looking at it, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and we were like, I don't think that's what it is. So then I got thinking, this baby looks like a, and this was when it was smaller, so it had like, there was none of this situation. So we got thinking it was a Monstera Pennypartita. Now, I looked it up. Juvenile partitas look very similar. They have a very similar leaf shape, but if you'll remember in the beginning of the video, I did say that a lot of Monsteras look similar. Therein lies the problem. This also looks kind of like a Monstera Peru. Okay, we know it is not a Peru. We know that it is not an Imidrium. But what we don't know still is what the heck it is, because if you go on Google, or what I did, I went on Google because that's what we do when we don't know things, we Google. And I put Monstera Siam in there, and all kinds of pictures of Monstera Pennypartita came up. So I'm like, yo, I still don't know what it is. So this is what it's doing now. Whatever the plant is, I like it. I'm keeping it. It's lovely. But I would really like to know what I have. So it has now put out this giant runner, because Monsteras like to do that to stress us out. And I'm still kind of stuck. So I do know that I need to put this guy in a pole. He is a floppy AF, and so that's a problem. I want to get it on a pole so that it can start growing to its normal potential. I'll probably go ahead and cut this runner off, probably propagate the nodes. If they'll propagate, who knows? But yeah, I'm not as well versed with a lot of the more uncommon Monsteras as I am with like Phillows and stuff like that. So this guy has me, I don't know. Anyway, super easy plant to take care of, whatever it is. I'm kind of hoping it is a Pennypartita, but maybe because it's not on a pole, it's not growing the way a Pennypartita would grow. But I'm not confident in that at all. So I will get this guy on a pole, and we will see what it does next. I would like to, you know, Pennypartitas to have those beautiful split leaves. Here's a photo of what they look like when they get larger. They're beautiful plants. The moral of the story is, here's a Monstera that I don't know what it is. Let's move along. Okay, so I know I'm kind of jumping back down to small here, but I think I kind of went more like more common to less common, sort of. So this was my number one wish list plant on my last wish list, and I got it from a friend of mine all the way on the other side of the country in BC, and this is a Monsteraesculetto. I know it kind of has like adensoni vibes. It is not. Here's what a full mature version of this plant looks like, and I am obsessed with those giant, beautiful, holy leaves. So this is my Monsteraesculetto, formerly known as the Monstera epiprimnoides. They're just gorgeous plants when they get big. Now this guy grew extremely well and extremely fast in my greenhouse, but since taking it out, it has kind of slowed down a little bit. So I may actually need to put him back down in there just so he gets a little bit more established. I was very excited because he was growing so well. So I think I kind of just jumped the gun and I was like, oh, I want to take it out and put it on my shelf and show everybody and go, look at my Esculetto. But I think he probably would benefit from going back into the greenhouse for a little while just to grow a few more leaves. But the plant is doing really well. It's really healthy. I love this plant so much. All of these Monsteras, and I'm not mentioning really any specific tips about the Monstera plants, maybe with the exception of my Dubai, which I will get to, which I know a lot of you are waiting for. I will get there, I promise. Well, hello, Eli. Welcome. Because really the care for them is all rather similar. I don't go into watering tips, and the reason that I don't go into watering tips for pretty much any of my plants is because there's no hard and fast rule when it comes to watering. There just isn't. So you can ask, you know, like, oh, how often do you water that? It doesn't matter. There's so many different factors. You should water a plant when the plant needs water. When it's dry, you water it. So if you never really hear me mention how often I water something on this channel, that is the reason why, because it's irrelevant. There's so many different things: pot size, plant size, pot type, like, it's just, you know what I'm saying. Anyway, this plant though, it's very easygoing. It responds well to underwatering. No plant really responds overly well to overwatering. So there's that, but that's pretty much on the watering front. That's pretty much the only thing. And like I said before, the majority of Monsteras prefer like a medium to bright indirect light. They don't do like crazy high bright direct light. So anyway, that was a lot. That is my Monsteraesculetto, my little baby. And he's cute. Let's move on to the next plant. Okay. The next plant that I have to show you is this gorgeous babe. Oh, she's a big girl. So this is my Monstera adensoni round form. So the round form has larger, more round leaves, as you can see here. Some of the leaves on this plant are just humongous, like the size of my hand. Not that I have really massive hands. I have taken multiple cuttings from this plant, and it's just grown so well, which is a leap and bound from the narrow form that I had previously. I kind of prefer the round form adensoni. I just find the leaves much nicer to look at. But I might be a little biased because I ran into so many awful problems with my narrow form. It had thrips, it had spider mites, and it had thrips again. And finally, it took a trip out my patio door. I don't normally give up on a plant, but when you're struggling with a plant for over a year, and it's a plant that's fairly common, I can get it again if I want to, and it's not going to be a problem. I just, rather than stress myself out about it, just let it go. So, I found this guy at one of my local nurseries, and it was a great price. It was a nice full plant when I got it, and it has not disappointed me at all. It is still gorgeous and beautiful and huge. It definitely needs a new pot because this pot is way too small for this plant at this point. But at this point, I'm trying to decide, do I want it to trail or do I want to put it on a pole and have it climb? And I just can't decide. I can't decide. What do you guys think I should do? What do you think? Trailing? Climbing? What do you want to do? I don't know. Anyway, super easy to care for plant. I find the round form adensoni much easier to care for than I found the narrow form. Let me know if you've experienced that at all, if you find the narrow form more difficult than the round form. I don't know if it was just my experience or this plant in particular. Let me know your thoughts. I don't know. Anyway, so that is my round form Monstera adensoni. So let's move on to the big guns. Okay, so the next plant on my list is just the classic plain old Monstera Deliciosa, and this baby has been through the ringer. This poor thing. So this plant, no, you did not. Oh. Thrips are the bane of my existence. No joke. Okay, so this baby has been through the ringer. So originally I bought this plant as this big, huge, beautiful, full, mature, fenestrated, you get where I'm going with that, enough adjectives, right? Plant, and it was absolutely gorgeous. Now, this was back before I knew a whole lot about pests. Knew enough about plants, but didn't know as much about pests. So, in all truthfulness, I think this plant came with thrips, and I think it was this plant that started my entire stupid infestation with thrips, and is probably the reason that I still find the occasional one here and there. So this plant got thrips. I lost it. I coated this plant with insecticidal soap and then set it outside on my back deck in the summer, in the sun. So let me paint a little picture of what happens. So if you will, visualize a frying pan. Now, throw a chunk of butter in that frying pan. Now throw a leaf in that frying pan. Do you see where I'm going with this? So it was like, you know, when you were a kid and you put baby oil on. I don't know like what generation you're from, but like when I was a kid, there wasn't all this fancy like self-tanning stuff. Like we put baby oil on and we went and lied in the sun until we fried to a crisp, literally. So that's basically in essence what I did to this plant. I put all this, you know, oily insecticidal soap on it, and I put it outside in the sun, and then I forgot. And then the next day I went out and boy, she was not happy. So anyway, I literally cut that plant down to nothing. I split it, I cut it off, I cleaned some of the nodes that I cut off, I separated them all, I grew some separate pieces in case the main plant didn't make it, So, to make a long story short, the entire plant survived. I got about 5 or 6, no, actually it's probably more than that, about 8 different propagations and new plants created from that plant. This was 2 of the propagations that I did, and she's now, you know, quite large. She's doing really well. Is that another thrips? Seriously. See, pests happen. It's no reason to get all bent out of shape. Just gonna take it after the video's done. I'm gonna treat her, I'm gonna spray her down, clean all her leaves. She'll be fine, and I'll be fine. We will all be okay. Anywho, so I'm sure most of you have Monstera Deliciosa. They're super easy to care for plants, And they're gorgeous. They're a statement piece. Once they get mature, they get these massive, beautiful fenestrated leaves. And they're just, I think it's one of those plants that every plant parent should have. It's just like a staple. Do you know what I'm saying? Like eggs in your fridge. It's a staple that everyone should have in their fridge. Whereas the Monstera Deliciosa is just a staple plant that everybody should own. Unless you're allergic to eggs, I guess. In which case, you wouldn't really have a need for eggs in your fridge. Okay, I think that's pretty much on the Deliciosa that I wanted to explain to you. Really easygoing plant. I wouldn't put them in extremely high light. Again, the same deal with most Monsteras. They thrive in medium to bright indirect light. And this guy doesn't get the brightest light, and it's still doing quite well despite the thrips that we just found. She'll be fine. Okay, I'm gonna go throw her over there later on fire, and then we'll move on to the next plants. Okay, it's really hard to fit in the frame. So the next plant is my gorgeous and beautiful Monstera constellation. So if you can see her leaves there, they are a decent size. She is gorgeous. I don't want to pull her too much because she's kind of rooted in here to the pole. Beautiful plant. Honestly, such an easy, sturdy Monstera. I know the prices for these have incredibly skyrocketed. When I bought mine, I think I paid like $125 for it, and it had 3 leaves, none of which it still has. They weren't fenestrated or anything like that. She is working on yellowing her oldest leaf, but again, that's pretty standard, nothing to be worried about. It happens. This leaf has been on the plant for over a year. It has contributed all the photosynthesis that it can provide this plant, and it's time for her to retire, so that's fine. But the plant is rather large. It has some beautiful variegation. It's got some nice sectoral variegation, as you can see on this leaf, and then just the gorgeous constellation type variegation on the other leaves. And this plant has been just amazing. This is actually one of Jordan's favorite plants. And this was the plant that inspired last year's 12 Days of Christmas. Because I was so excited when this leaf came out. Nope, not that one. Which one was it? Oh, this one. And it had 5 fenestrations. And I was so excited that I had to put that into our Christmas song. So if you ever wondered, I know it gets mentioned here and there on different channels. That's where that came from, in case you wanted to know. You probably didn't, but in case you did. And also, I think it's kind of fun, the leaves are getting mature enough now that they are starting to ripple at the very top of the petiole, which is a sign of the maturity of the plant. So it's kind of fun. Anyway, gorgeous plant, super easygoing. The one thing I will say about this plant is they do not tolerate being overwatered. So this is one that I always use my moisture meter on, and I do not water it if it's above a 3 on my moisture meter. This plant currently is growing roots out of the bottom of the pot quite substantially, and some out of the top of the pot, which you can't really see, and I can't really get it up high enough. Maybe you can see that little root peeking over the edge here. But she definitely will need a new pot here very shortly, and a new pole. That's about it, I think. Gorgeous plant, beautiful plant. I kind of wish I could show you a little better. Maybe I can tip her so you can see her in all of her beautiful leaves. Anyway, so that, oh, and then we have this. It's good times. She's been just throwing this runner all over the place. I'll put it in one spot, and then I wake up the next morning and it's like I wanted it over here, and it will be like in a totally different direction, like across the middle of my floor or something. So she's very particular about where she wants her aerial roots going. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and get this baby put back into her position, and then I will show you the the third last plant. I'm so confused. Yeah, we have 3 left. Okay, the third last plant I'm gonna go ahead and shift to the side. I'm just gonna insert some footage. I cannot remove it from where it is. It is quite comfy where it is. So this is my Monstera Peru. This plant I got over a year ago, and honestly, it took forever to really acclimate and get going. I find that's generally a theme with a lot of Monstera. They take a little bit more time as opposed to like a philodendron to kind of acclimate to their new surroundings and feel comfortable and growing. So this plant took a little while, but let me tell you, Perus get this bad rep for growing really, really slowly. And if their conditions are met and they are receiving the adequate care, they will grow really fast. So I put this plant on my Home Depot rack in my front window, and it has started to just absolutely take off, and it's climbed up the poles and it's up through the top now, and it's crazy. They're a beautiful plant. You just need to figure out what they want. This one in particular likes a little bit brighter light than I would have thought. So that is trick number 1. Nothing special with the watering. This guy can get quite dry before I water it, and he's completely okay with that. But I will say they do like to climb. So if you have a Peru, it's not on pole and it's not growing really quickly, put it on a pole and just give it time. They definitely are a plant that requires a little bit of patience, but trust me, once they start, it's crazy. Once you figure that out, they're amazing plants, and they will grow like a weed, literally. Really not too much else to say about the plant. Just be a little bit patient with them. They will do their thing in their own time, as with any plant. We can't rush nature. Nature just does what it wants to do on its own time, not ours. Anyway, so it's a beautiful plant. I really have enjoyed it. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say about the Peru. Oh, actually, there is one further thing that I wanted to say about the Peru. I did end up propagating quite a few pieces of this plant, and what I found, so they don't propagate in water worth jack. Tried that, didn't work. Then I put them into spag moss and just into my greenhouse. That didn't work much. Then I threw them into my spag bag, jacked up the humidity, and put it into my Mars Hydro grow tent. That did the trick. So Monstera Peru, and I find a lot of Monstera really, with the exception of like the larger varieties like the Deliciosa, the Albo, the Thai, and so forth. The Siltana, or Stanleyana, sorry, the Peru, they don't tend to root overly quickly. But I did find that growing this plant in spag moss in a sealed, crazy high humidity situation definitely did the trick for that plant. And I still have ones that I have left out just in spag moss in the greenhouse, and then ones that I have in the spag bag. And I mean, there's no contest. Even though the humidity in my greenhouse is crazy high, there's something about that spag bag that does it every time. Anyway, so if you want to propagate a Peru, I recommend the spag bag method 3000%. It just works. Okay, boy, this video is getting like super long, and I can see that my battery is running low. So let's move on to this guy, and then our last one will be my Monstera de Baya. So this beautiful, gorgeous beast is my variegated Monstera. So this Monstera started off with 1.5 leaves. I finally just cut its original only leaf that it came with off. It was slightly damaged when I got it, just from, you know, normal wear and tear. And so when it grew the first few leaves, they did the newer leaves on a variegated plant, in my experience, are always a little bit more sensitive. So the white is a little bit more sensitive. So we have these two bottom leaves that have got these crispy spots on them. It hasn't spread at all. All of the newer leaves, even the ones with, you know, like we've got a lot of half moon kind of situations going on here, and it has been great. We've got no browning. It looks beautiful. So this one right here is the newest leaf. They are starting to get a little bit white. So that's a little bit scary. But I don't find this plant difficult in the slightest. It is very typically Monstera in that regard. It doesn't grow crazy fast. I have a feeling that it's going to require a repot come spring, and which is fine. The only weird thing that's happening with this plant right now, and I'm sure you can see it. So normally every new leaf that comes out is just slightly taller than the last, but it's like the last 4 leaves have come out all almost on the same level. Can you, like, there's 4 leaves there. So there's this one here, there's this one here, there's this one, and then there's this one. And they've just kind of stacked on each other, which is kind of weird, and it makes it really difficult to see all of the leaves. So let me know if yours does that. I'm kind of curious. I just think it's kind of weird. It would be nice if they were a little bit more staggered height-wise, but it's still a gorgeous plant. I absolutely love this plant. I am so happy to have this plant, and I just love her. She is my baby. Same care requirements. I found it was getting a little bit too much light, so I moved it into, I basically just took out the box that it was sitting on to kind of raise it up closer to the light and just dropped it down maybe half a foot. And that seems to have helped. It is appreciating that. And yeah, other than that, it's another situation of don't overwater them. Monstera in general don't like to be overwatered, but they can take a fairly heavy hit in underwatering. And like everybody always says, it's better to err on the side of underwatering than overwatering, because a plant will usually snap back from being underwater, but not overwatered. You already know that. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to my Monstera baya. Okay. So this is my Monstera baya, or dubia, whatever you prefer to say. So this plant I got when it was maybe a foot tall. So like basically just down here, maybe about that tall. Wasn't very big at all. And so you can see that down here near the bottom, the original leaves that came on it are pretty rough looking. We got this little guy who's, you know, gone off to a better life somewhere. So I have this piece of wood behind it, and the interesting part about this plant is it has just found a way to thrive. So I'll give you a scan from bottom to top. So this is the bottom. This, where is it? I think this piece right here, let me get in close, is the only, like, is the original plant root. So see how tiny that little stem is? If you can see it, it's not really focusing well. Can you see that? So this right here is the original stem. Let's go up. There we go, to the newest leaf. This leaf will continue to get a little bit bigger, and it will flatten out just like these ones. It just takes some time. It's still a fairly new leaf. So what is interesting about this plant is, though the original little node there at the bottom, sorry that's really dark, is so small, it has just thrived. So this is one of the only plants, so my shingling plants are the only ones that I actually will spray down with my mister, and mainly that's to keep the board behind it a little bit more moist. It encourages those aerial roots, and as you can see, this guy has put out some insane aerial roots. So this one comes all the way down and has wrapped around there, and it has actually rooted back into the pot. It has these ones here. There's this one here. And then it's got these ones that it has attached. Can you see that? It has attached itself right to, let me see if I can focus on that. It has attached itself to this board and has gone right down into the soil. And then this one back here, you can see it's coming down the side here, is attached, so like that's on there. And it is growing right down into the bottom of this tray. If you can see that down in the bottom of the tray. And it's just wrapping itself around the base of the pot. This plant is crazy. What I'm really waiting for, and I know I've said this many times, so these plants, if you don't know, once they get to a certain maturity, they will release from the wall and they will kind of like hang over. So it'll release and then hang like a normal plant would, and then their leaves fenestrate, which is absolutely beautiful. So that's kind of the goal here. This gap, unfortunately, I lost a leaf, so it looks kind of weird. But there's really not a whole lot I can do about that, but she's quirky and pretty. So I think, as far as the care tips on what I do, I can't tell you really how to take care of yours, what's going to make yours look like mine. I really can only tell you what I do, and you can try it, and it may work, it may not work, I don't know. So it is in a 6-inch terracotta pot. I have it on this board, which it really didn't stick to at all. It wasn't until it hit the wall and it attached itself to the wall. So let me see if I can get in and show you behind the scenes here. So you can see, it's not really a good spot. Do you see all those little pieces there? Let's see if I can focus on them. So all those little bits are the little grippy roots. So that's what it uses to grip itself onto whatever it's gripping onto in order to climb. And like that's, I'm pushing on that pretty hard. There, it's solid, it's not going anywhere. I'm gonna have to repaint that part of the wall once I move, because I imagine it's not gonna be fun trying to get this plant off the wall. But you know, it is what it is. We do what we need to do for our plants. Now, you can see that there is a little bit of yellowing here. It's actually not yellowing. It's really all it was is that I had this light here a little too close, and it did bleach out those leaves a little bit. It's still healthy. The leaves are still fine. I'm not going to lose them. They just got a little bit too much light. So the other thing that I found works well for this plant is if you try to keep the light sort of above it. So I think that's what attributed to growing this plant as quickly as it grew, was that I had this light. I'll kind of back up and show you where it is. Now, imagine, if you will, though, when the plant was substantially smaller and I had just put this piece of wood in here. The wood is about, well, you can see there how tall the wood is. So when I put it here, it was only up to about here. And then the light was up here. So it wants to grow towards the light, and it's the same thing in nature. They grow up towards the top of the canopy in order to get the best light that they can get, or whatever light they require. And so this plant was growing up towards this light, and I think that really helped with getting these bigger leaves and it growing as fast as it did. Because honestly, I haven't had this plant a year. It has grown substantially in that time frame. And yeah, and other than that, I spray it. I haven't even sprayed it as often lately as I probably should have. But yeah, that's what I do with this plant. I'm not sure if I covered everything. If you had any additional questions about this, I know a lot of people ask me about this plant and what I do to get it like this. I mean, that's what I do. And I think I covered it all, but if I didn't and there was something that I missed, please by all means go ahead and throw it in the comments. Ask me the questions. Anyway, yeah, if you have more questions about the baya, please throw them down in the comments and let me know. Okay, that was it. That was my entire Monstera collection. I know this video is going to be quite long. I did ramble on about the plants a little bit more in depth. You know, it's been a while since I've done a sit down chat with you guys kind of video, so it is what it is. So let me know which Monstera was your favorite. I would like you, if you are still here, thank you so much. Go ahead in the comments and put a little leaf emoji or like a plant emoji. If you can find a Monstera emoji, I don't think they have those. But go ahead and put some sort of plant life emoji down in the comments. I would appreciate that so much. It's like I said before, it's been so much fun doing this with you guys. I love it. And yeah, eventually I will just run out of emojis, but we can just recycle them, right? Anyway, if there was anything that I missed, there may have even been a Monstera that I missed, because honestly, I walked around the house and I'm looking at each plant and I really had to concentrate on like which plant was which.
That's not a Monstera. That's not a Monstera.
It was sad. So it's possible that I missed one. I don't think I did, but you know, it's entirely likely. Anyway, thank you guys so much for liking and watching and commenting and subscribing. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. It is a huge help to my channel and I really do appreciate it. I will let you all go. It is 1 week till Christmas. Can you believe it? My mind is blown. But you know what's cool? This is so unlike me or us. We're actually ready. I know. I'm a procrastinator when it comes to Christmas, and I wait until the last minute and then we wrap all of the gifts on Christmas Eve, and then I am exhausted because it's 3 in the morning, and then you know the kids are up early, so we get like an hour and a half, 2 hours sleep. It's a whole mess. Anyway, it's so irrelevant. I love you guys all to bitty bits. Have an amazing and wonderful day, night, week, month, and year, and I will see you in the next video. Mwah! Okay, let's move on. Let's move again. When it comes to like when it comes to oh no, oh no. Anyway.